Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are going to learn about the poem The Tale of Custard the Dragon. Dear students, this is a poem about a person who is often being thought to be lazy, and he's being teased for being lazy and coward. But when the time comes, the same person who is famous for his cowardice shows his worth and does some act of bravery. Have you heard about that? If you do not have heard, listen to the poem and you will find something in that. Now let's start the poem. Blinda lived in a little white house. Now this is a poem. It is written in a ballad. So ballad is a poem that tells us about a story. That is a story rather. This is a story, and you know that every story has an introduction, a conflict, and a conclusion. In the introduction, we are being introduced with the characters of the poem. Then there is the conflict or the incident where this person or this character of the poem proves his mettle, proves that he is a brave, not a cowardice. And with that bravery, act of bravery, there comes the conclusion of the poem. So let us start with this. Blinda lived in a little white house. First of all, we are acquainted with the person called Blinda. She lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little grey mouse. She has two other pets with her. That's a little black kitten and a little grey mouse. And a little yellow dog. And a little red red wagon. She is having a little yellow dog and a little white wagon. Wagon is an automobile, or wagon is a carriage that is used to carry the goods from one place to another. And a Trilio little pet dragon. She is having a little pet dragon. Here the Trilio are the rhyming words. Now, the nomenclature of these pets. Now, the name of the little black kitten was Ink. The name of this little black kitten was Ink. And the little grey mouse, she called him Blink. The grey mouse was called Blink, and the little kitten was called Ink. And the little yellow dog was Sharp. This dog was very sharp, and he was called as Mustard. Here the poet has used the simile, the poetic device. Of course, we will be talking we will have the separate video for this poetic devices. Please wait for that. But here we have a little explanation of them. But the dragon was coward, and she called him Custard. So this Belinda had 4 pets. Number 1, she had a little black kitten whom she called as Ink. She has a little grey mouse, called him Blink, and she had a bad dog who was thought to be very sharp. She called him Mustard, and she was having a dragon called him Custard. And this dragon was called to be very lazy and very coward. And so far as the dragon is concerned, it is an animal thought to be throwing fire from his mouth and this smoke from its nose. Custard the dragon had sharp teeth. Now there is introduction and explanation about this dragon. Dragon has a very sharp teeth and spikes on top of him and scales underneath. This custard dragon has big sharp teeth and spikes. Spikes means nails-like structures on the upper side of his mouth and the scales on the lower side of its mouth. Mouth like a fireplace. Once more, there's a simile. Compared his mouth to the fireplace. Chimney for a nose. Because as you know that his mouth was throwing fire and his nose was throwing smoke out. And Trilio daggers on his toes. There's one more metaphor. And another metaphor, chimney for a nose. Chimney has been used as metaphor for his nose, and the daggers. Daggers means the sharp knives. His toes were like the sharp knives. Blinda was as brave as barrel full of beers. This little girl, Belinda, there has been a figurative has been used. She was a very brave girl. She can fight any odd. And this is a barrel full of beers. And Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Another figurative speech of this Ink and Blink, this kitten and this little mouse. They were as brave as they could chase the lions. Means they were more brave than the lions. Mustard was as brave as Tiger and Rag. This Mustard, the dog, was full of courage. He was brave. But his bravery started when the tiger's bravery was at its peak. Means when the tiger was in Rag. This dog was a brave like the tiger in Rag. But Custard cried for a nice safe cage. And this Custard, who was thought to be very coward, he asked always for a nice safe cage. Now, what was done with this? Belinda tickled him. She tickled him unmercifully. Now she teased him. Belinda teased him. And teased him unmercifully. Showed no mercy to this dragon for teasing. Ink, Blink and Mustard. This kitten, this mouse and the dog, they rudely called him Percival. Percival is an epic character that is thought to be in the folk tales, who is a very courageous person. They teased him for being a courageous person, and they meant him, so they had a style. They were staring at him, and for his cowardice, they called him Percival. And for that they meant that he was not a brave. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon. While sitting in the little red wagon, they stood laughing. And at the Trilio cowardly dragon. At this dragon, they usually laughed while sitting in the wagon. Belinda giggled till she shook the house. Belinda had a laugh, so much laugh, that she thought that everything was shaking around her. And Blink said, "Rack." And this mouse, which is a giggle for a mouse, this rack is a word, or this word this rec is a sound produced by this mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age. And this Ink and Mustard, they always asked for this age, his age. What is the age? What is your age? Mr. Dragon or Mr. Custard. When Custard cried for a nice safe cage, he never claimed to be brave. He always asked for a safe cage. Suddenly, now the conflict. Suddenly, they heard a nasty sound. There was an unpleasant sound. And Mustard growled. This dog, it growled. Growl is a sound produced at the time when the dog is afraid. This is called growling. And they all looked around. When this dog growled, they all looked around towards their surroundings. What's happening? Meow, cried Ink. This cat, little kitten, it also cried. And ooh, cried Blinda. Blinda also. All of them were afraid. They all were surprised. For there was a pirate climbing in the window. There was a pirate. Pirate means a robber who used to rob the ships. The robbers of the sea is called a pirate. Like we have the robbers, like we have these thieves, and we have the robbers. And if the same person lives in or does the same thing in the sea or oceans, the person is known as pirate. Now they see a pirate. Now here is one more there. This is known as what is called as the figure. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. Then there is a pirate. There is imagery. Image of a pirate has been created through the words. How the pirate looked like. Imagery has been used. Pistol in his left hand. This pirate was pistol in his left hand and a pistol in right. He was carrying pistol in both his hands and a cutlass. And he held the teeth in cutlass bright. And he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. He was having a bright, sharp knife in his teeth. His beard was black. He was having a black beard, like I have a black beard. One leg was wood. He was having a leg, perhaps that was cut by some accident, and that was of the wood. It was clear that pirate meant no good. It was clear from his intention that this pirate has come here with no good intentions. It meant that he is having the bad intention. Blinda paled. Blinda turned pale. Her face turned ashen. And she cried, "Help, help." Blinda was crying for help. But Mustard fled with the terrified, those who claimed to be brave. Then there was a Mustard the dog. He fled. He ran away with a terrified yelp. He gave a sound of terrified yelp and ran away. Ink tickled down. And this little kitten, it tickled down to the bottom of the household. And a little mouse blinked strategically mousehold. While saving himself, both of three, they ran away from the spot and saved themselves. And Blinda was left alone with this dragon who is thought to be of no use because he was thought to be covered and he was having no use. We are having no use of this character at this time. But up jumped the Custard. Here is the anticlimax. What is thought? What is not thought, that happens. Up jumped the custard. The custard jumped up, snorting like an engine. Now there is another imagery, there is another there simile. Like an engine, snorting. The sound of engine produced while jumping up clashed his tail like iron in the dungeon. Now he clashed his tail with himself. Like that a sound produced produced by the iron bars when they strike each other in the dungeon, in the underground prison. Dungeon means underground prison. With a clatter and clank and a jingling squirm, he went the pirate like a robin at a worm. And he just jumped over the pirate like the robin, a bird, has a little to do. While flying, he just opened his mouth and an insect comes and straightaway he takes him and gobbles him. That insect, this robin. And same happened with the pirate by the hands of this dragon. The pirate gaped at Blinda's dragon. He tried to save himself from the dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He took some flask that contained alcohol and took a sip of that. He fired two bullets. He fired two bullets from the two pistols, but they didn't hit. So these bullets did not hit any person, and Custard gobbled him every